There is emerging on the face of the earth a new human, an infinite human, and that infinite human is you. Join Elizabeth Monroy weekly for enlightening discussions, multidimensional journeys, profound meditations, and empowering visualizations as we co-create the new consciousness renaissance together with other blossoming infinite human beings who are shifting the old paradigms of our broken, fragmented, finite 3D Earth and alchemizing it into a more expansive, unified, loving, infinite reality by reclaiming their true divine, infinite power within as the co-creators of the new infinite Earth. Join us weekly for the Infinite Human Talk Show, hosted by Elizabeth Monroy.
Hello, my divine, infinite human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And welcome to the Infinite Human Talk Show. I'm your host, Elizabeth Monroy, and we've got some very fascinating information about the art of ascension, but we're also going to be talking about some of the very powerful energy bombs that are heading our way, and how to prepare for them and to navigate and to be able to utilize them for the highest essence of your own personal ascension, rather than being caught up like the masses in fear and doubt and focusing externally. So hopefully this will be very commercial free, very information packed hour with you. So, buckle up, sit back and listen, because I think the things that I'm downloading are going to help position you, because that's what we're talking about now, the art of ascension. And I'm going to go into the details about how this time frame, ascension has been with us. It's always been part of our script, part of our normal life story, until, of course, we were co-opted and cut off from that. And we're going to talk about that and how that's shifted now, and how actually it is happening very, very fast for a reason. And we're getting so much help. It's going to be like harder not to ascend. So let me start out right now with kind of an energy update. There's a lot of hullabaloo, I guess, about what's going to be happening this week. People are saying the 27th, the 30th. Now, whenever you hear this, it's timely for you, because it's only going to keep augmenting in power, because we are realigning and repositioning ourselves in our proper place in the cosmos. So there's a lot of talk about the Atlas 3-1 Atlas, this object, even NASA's noticing it, that is hurtling toward us. There's also, of course, really powerful increase in solar activity and solar flares. And we are on the verge of what most people know as Halloween, Samhain in the ancient times, but really based on our old history, our old timelines, since we were cut off from the higher dimensions, which is why everyone's focusing on the fifth dimension, because the fourth dimension was outside of our awareness, but it was all that we had. That was what was spiritual to us. Unfortunately, the fourth dimension was still very much co-opted by the parasites, or the fallen angelics. And actually the fifth has become that way too, but we'll talk about that more in detail, and on up to the seventh. So Tara and Gaia, have fallen. But the point is that in ancient times, not ancient times, but in the most recent past, it was the Halloween, which is Halloween in the States, 31st, and over here in Italy, it's the Day of the Dead in Mexico, and here it's All Saints Day, where you kind of think about the dead, you think about those who have crossed over, because the veil has always been the thinnest, and that's just has to do with the positioning of our planet. And 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 the veil, of course, separated the fourth dimension, which was the astral dimension, where all the souls went because they were still caught in the matrix. It's still within the matrix, and they had to reincarnate. But it was a time when you could, and you see that in Halloween, the dead come to life. There's also, unfortunately, is and still is, but was so much of the black magic that they were conjuring up. They were conjuring up bodies, the zombies, and filling them with entities from the black hole at the center of our Milky Way, to bring in the dead, wake up the dead, bring in these dead bodies, because basically that's what the whole cycle of the fallen angelics has been about. It's been about co-opting the natural order and laws of divine infinite source and life, and then co-opting it into evil, which is live spelled backwards. So it's been a death cult. So much around that time has been, even though the veil is thin, the veil has been to conjure up and bring in the dead. And it was also a time when there's a whole lot of satanic rituals, sacrifices, and we've talked a lot about that. So it's been a very dark time, but it really wasn't designed to that. It was just the positioning of the planet brought in a portal in which the higher dimensions in the correct timing are accessible. Now that we're reconstituting, we're recalibrating to the infinite God source, the veil is still thin, but it's allowing higher dimensions and this higher energy that is pouring in from the crystal river failsafe and all the activations from the sun to come in. So around that time period, the 30th, 31st, the 1st, I do sense, and maybe all of you, because who are listening to me, I'm sure you're empaths, you're highly intuitive, you're kind of sensing that there's going to be a huge shift. Now, someone was saying that, 6 billion people are going to experience a massive shift in consciousness. Well, the energy's there, but of course, everyone, will deal with the energy differently. And if you're in organic form, you're going to be feeling it. All of organic life, the animals, the plants, our Mother Earth, her Schumann resonance is going to, spike again. It's already been spiking. We will be feeling it because everything is happening internally now. That's where the ascension is coming from. But if you've been transhumanized, if you've been so overrun with these artificial overlays and Metatronic reversals and all that in the dark flowering, then you won't be able to hold that frequency. So those who are doing that, and some of them are choosing that on purpose because they don't want to ascend, they don't want to surrender to infinite God source. They don't want it because they've just been too long attached to the 3D realities of division, of separation, of power, of control, of greed. So those will continue on the Fibonacci spiral of death. And we've talked a lot about that. So I don't really want to give a lot of power to that, but they will go into fall, and, they'll have everything's going home, everyone's going home, and they'll go home in the purity of space dust without their memories. So that story we've talked about plenty, but now I want to talk to you about why this ascension is different than any other ascension. Actually, ascension was never a big deal. In fact, it was created by divine infinite creator as just part of the cycle. We manifested, as original sparks sparking out from our twin flame and our monadic families. And then we, began our existence, and we eventually chose for experiential purposes. It was part of us being the infinite, wanting to know itself, to descend in frequency into the lower dimensions. And the lower dimensions were not evil. They were not death cults at that time. They were just different ways of experiencing your reality. And you maintained all 12 strands of your DNA. So you were in constant contact. You were still multidimensional. You knew what was going on, and you were experiencing life in that holographic reality, interfacing with that dimensional reality. And it was all good fun. It was all part of the experience. And then when you had learned, saturated, when you had learned what you came to, when your time was up, and there's certain times that you spend in each dimension, you would then ascend. It was a natural process, and you would find the Stargate that corresponded with you. You did not have to drop your body, because your body was already a crystic 12-stranded, luminous, Christos infinite human body. So you would exit through the nearest Stargate, because your DNA was intact and you were coded with that certain Stargate, kind of like in the movie Stargate. You see how the codes have to be properly aligned. You were properly aligned, and so you would exit, and you would start your ascent up what was called, referred to as the Stairway of Heaven. No, not Led Zeppelin's, the Stairway of Heaven, the real one. And so you would go up through the dimensions, and you would spend a certain amount of time in each dimension. And it took a lot of time to finally return to where you came from. And that was called an Adashi cycle. And many of us who are here now are what we've done that cycle, the Adashi cycle, and we're what is termed Adashi adepts, which means you've done it at least once. Many of us have done it several times. So you know how it works, or at least how it's supposed to work. Now, it does not work that way. I think it's been over 250,000 years that the Stargates have not been functioning. So we have been trapped. And that's what people are referring to by being trapped in the matrix, trapped through this veil of illusion, unable to ascend. We have been downgraded, so our bodies, as many of you know, are no longer 12 strands. We're 2, 3. Some of us have more genetics that we've been working on and we've accrued, so we're higher. But most people are not at the level where they can go through a Stargate. So we haven't been able to access the exits from this 3D reality. And the 3D reality is nothing like what it was supposed to be. It has fallen, it's gone fall, and it just continues. It has been continuing to go further and further and further down.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Infinite Human Talk Show with your host, Elizabeth Monroy. We hope today's episode has inspired you to join the new consciousness renaissance and be the change by reclaiming your true divine infinite nature within and becoming an infinite human and a co-creator of the new infinite earth. Tune in next week for another empowering episode. Until then, have an infinite week.